No, thanks very much, SG. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You will notice that we were here exactly at 11 o'clock. The SG was doing all the necessary salutations and greetings so that we await the arrival, finally, of City Press and Mail and Guardian, which are quite good friends of Luthuli House. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We welcome you and thank you very much. The National Executive Committee concluded its business late hours of last night, which was preceded by, as you are aware, the National List Committee, which started at the end of last week. So it's been a very busy weekend for the leadership of the ANC. The Secretary General of the ANC, Comrade Samson Gwede Mantashe, also known as SG, would present the post-NEC and National List Committee statement as an outcome of both meetings. Comrade Samson, the platform is yours. Where is Hlengiwe from? Hlengiwe? Oh, good morning.
I wanted to sing for you so that I can get space in the SABC as part of the 90% local content. But Ziz persuaded me out of it, don't sing, you'll spoil the media briefing. Thank you very much, members of the media. I won't call you for fourth estate. Let's call the media of the media fraternity. All of you. The African National Congress convened 2 meetings over the weekend. The National List Conference, 27th to the 28th of May, at St. George Hotel, Irene Tswane. And the National List Conference is a culmination of an extensive and a thorough process of internal democracy that saw communities throughout the length and breadth of our country select candidates for the 2016 local government elections for the ANC. No other party in South Africa can legitimately claim the same extent of transparency and inclusiveness in selection of candidates. As the ANC, we are justifiably proud of this and the role of our people play in their development, truly advancing people's power. That is what we're concluding this weekend. Second meeting was an ordinary meeting of the National Executive Committee, which considered and adopted the outcomes of the National List Committee first, following the List Conference. And the statement reflects the resolution of the NEC meeting, inclusive of adopted position of the National List Conference. The NEC further received and deliberated on the following: the political overview by the President, local government elections report, Economic Transformation Subcommittee report on the National Working Committee. The National List Conference, the National List Committee, which is chaired by the Secretary General of the ANC, composed of 6 members of the ANC, senior enough, no direct interest in the outcome of the candidate selection process, as well as representative from the alliance partners and the leagues. Now, when we talk of the National List Committee, it's not just a purely ANC team. 6 ANC members, alliance partners, leagues in that committee. The NLC presented to the NEC the outcomes of the candidate selection process. The process had commenced in December 2015. It included the following stages. 1, branch nominations in the branch general meeting of the ANC, where 4 candidates are nominated, and this is followed by community meetings where the candidates are presented to community members. Communities engage the candidates in the presence of a screening committee, which select candidates depending on their performance in the committee engagement. You can go to the BGM and become number 1. When you go to the community meeting and you are asked questions in the committee meeting, you don't perform in that process, you may end up number 2, number 3. And these outcomes are presented to the regional list committees, which convene a regional list conference that actually deal with a number of the ordering of the prior, that is proportional representation, and look into all the branches. Then that goes to the provincial list committee. The regional list conference considers the ordering of the proportional representation list. No tampering of ward candidates is allowed. I want to repeat that. No tampering of the ward candidates is allowed in the regional list conference. The outcome of the regional list conference is presented to the provincial list conference. It is outcome of the provincial list conference that is presented to the national list conference. That provincial list conference is an extended provincial executive committee meeting, which includes other components, the allies, the leagues, and finalize that list. Provincial list conference may make adjustment to the list of no more than 15% to ensure adherence to the principles that are outlined below. So the provincial list conference can adapt here and there. One, all candidates lists were extremely scrutinized national list conference to ensure that they meet the following unassailable principles that must characterize all lists. This is what that intervention of 15% to the PLC can tamper with. To ensure that a minimum of all the lists, a minimum of 50% of all candidates on the list must be women. That's why there is that space for intervention by the provincial list committee. 2, a minimum of 20% of all candidates be youth. We define youth as anybody who is 35 years and below. We granted an exemption to people who serve in structures of the youth, that is Youth League and the YCL. Those who serve in structures who may be 36, 37, but still hold office, we exempted them, we added them to the number of youth. Thirdly, that a minimum of 2% of all candidates must be people with disabilities. Fourthly, a minimum of 60% of serving councillors must be retained in the candidate list to ensure continuity. There was a complex debate about district municipalities because district municipalities are actually a gathering of representatives of local municipalities. People had a sense that if you send, say, an experienced councillor to the municipality, that is continuity. We said, no, that is valuable experience going to the district municipality. But continuity means there must be people who have knowledge of the workings of the institution. We add them as good experience, but want to check if you have retained councillors who have been serving in that district municipality. The African National Congress is proud to report that on aggregate, these targets have largely been met across all provinces. When we say on aggregate, you'll find out that, for example, in Region X, which is a district municipality, one of the municipalities have not met those targets. But if you add together in that region, you find out that the targets have actually been met. There were issues where we try to force them to compliance and discover that actually there is nothing left in the list to meet the compliance. Those were exceptional cases, but on aggregate, those targets were met. This is an undisputable demonstration of the ANC's commitment to advancing our mission to create a non-sexist society, which empowers young people and people with disability, among others. The ANC does not pay lip service to these commitments, but tangibly enforces their attainment, especially within its ranks. The ANC denounced in the strongest possible terms the incidents of violence that would have erupted in some areas during the candidate selection process, notably Rustenburg, Tshwane. We paid particular attention to those areas. The NSC called for the relevant structure to act decisively in these instances. We congratulate those comrades who have emerged as the choice of our people to contest as councillors in the upcoming elections. I think, let me explain one point. You see, there are people who think that if they are not councillors, there is no council. Many of them continue to bombard us with complaints that I was nominated and therefore if you are not putting me on the list, there will be a mass walkout of the ANC in this and that and that. We think that is opportunistic and actually very selfish, because it means you are bigger than the organization, you are bigger than that community. It is about yourself and no more. Now, people, they will no doubt know that deployment, should they be elected, is an honor and a privilege. It can be withdrawn or changed at any time the ANC decides. In line with the commitments of the ANC manifesto, all councillors will be required to sign performance and accountability agreements. They will be expected to work tirelessly to serve and keep constant contact with our people. That is our expectation. The NEC reaffirmed its decision to announce mayoral candidates for the metropolitan municipalities and other strategic municipalities. Big debate about what is strategic, what is not strategic. We said metros, district municipalities, and there are municipalities that are very strategic. Let me give you an example, one or two. If you look into Rustenburg, which is almost a candidate to become a metro, but it is not yet there. That is very strategic to us. Announcing a mayoral candidate, there is quite significance. If you take Tlokwe, combined with Ventersdorp now, it's quite strategic in terms of the developmental level. You can go throughout the country and see that trend that, for example, Polokwane, it's not a metro, it's a capital of Limpopo, quite significant, huge municipality. In those instances, we will announce the mayoral candidates. That is going to happen in the next 2 weeks, because we didn't want to mix the question of selecting candidates and selection of mayoral candidates, because you can't select a mayoral candidate before you confirm your list and it is registered with the IEC. Because you find out that you select a Gwede Mantashe to be the mayor of Nkandla, only to discover that I've got criminal records. I don't qualify. So want to complete the process of registration of candidates, then select mayoral candidates. That is what we're going to do. So in the next 2 weeks, we'll be seized with the task of selecting mayoral candidates. On local government elections and related matters, the NSC has urged all members and structures of the organization to now focus on the intensification of election work to ensure an overwhelming and decisive victory for the ANC on the 3rd of August 2016. We remain committed to full adherence to the electoral code and peaceful, free and fair elections. Consequently, the NEC condemned the use of any inflammatory language, or any other instance of political intolerance in the course of campaigning. ANC members and supporters are expected to exercise maximum restraints even in the face of provocation. If you are provoked, report the incident. In the IC structures that were being provoked, this is what happened, this is the incident. Don't take law into your hands if you are a loyal and a genuine member of the ANC. The ANC expresses itself strongly against the continuing practice of destruction of private and public property as part of community protests. It is the view of the ANC that criminal acts should be dealt with as such. Destroying property, attacking people cannot be part of genuine protest. If you do that, at that point, you are immediately converted from a protester into a criminal. And we must deal with those criminal acts as such. These include banning of public facility by agent provocateurs in institutions of higher learning, masquerading as representing the genuine grievances of students. The ANC government must move with speed to respond to the real challenges that have been created as a result of our success in expanding access to institutions of higher learning. Because the ANC's poor policies, now more than ever, children from poor backgrounds have swelled the ranks of those in tertiary institutions. This success of open access means that government is now considering greater support for these students, specifically on food security and accommodation. Government must urgently intervene in this matter to respond to student demands. Welcome the appointment of the task team by Cabinet to deal with this matter. We receive reports of students sometimes who go without a meal, and we are expecting them to perform academically. It's impossible. We say support must be increased for such students. On the tragedy of warning, the NEC encouraged government to continue the efforts to return children to school and restore normality in the area. Intimidation tactics by those opposed to education must not be tolerated. The NEC urges continuing engagement with the community of Wuhan to reach a lasting solution to the challenges in that area. The NEC called on communities to take a bigger responsibility in protecting their own community assets. We're using the term community assets because once a school is built, that school is not a government property. It is a government property in terms of ownership, but in actual use, it is a property put at the disposal of a community. It's your school, it's your clinic, it's your road. People must not destroy their own assets. The NEC resolved that the Sengoba rally would be hosted in Greater Johannesburg region, Gauteng province, on the 31st of July 2016. In line with the resolution of the National General Council, the NEC once again called on the consideration of eradication of VIP accreditation at our rallies. A new trend that is growing, people, all of you, once we have a rally, they phone you, please, can you give me an accreditation card? We want to do away with that because this practice increases social distance between leadership and the mass of our people and should be strongly discouraged. So people must go to a rally, integrate and interact with people who have come to the rally freely. There must be no special reserved rooms for very important people. On the economic transformation, the NSC received a report of the Economic Transformation Subcommittee, whose chairperson walked in here late. He's the only man who has a hat in a house, in the room. You can't put a hat in the room. Only the chairperson of the Economic Transformation Committee can have that head inside a room. No other person does that. Which sought to identify action that will aid economic recovery directly and urgently. The report of the ETC subcommittee, together with the actions proposed, was based on the accelerated implementation of the 9-point plan announced by the government, which remains a meaningful instrument to bring about tangible change in the economy. The NEC identified the following as being critical to halt the decline in South Africa's economic growth forecast: ensuring security of energy supply, revitalizing agriculture and agro-processing, encouraging private investment, re-evaluation and reform of the role of state-owned companies and development finance institutions. The NEC noted that good progress made in the past 20 years in improving the living standard of our people. However, the global financial crisis has undermined these gains, and as a result, South Africa and many other countries around the world continue to experience a prolonged period of low economic growth and rising unemployment. During these difficult conditions, the government responded by pursuing counter-cyclical measures in order to promote economic growth and development. Due to the prolonged nature of the crisis, we are now experiencing rising debt levels. The new priority for fiscal policy now is that expenditure must be controlled and tax revenue raised in order to avoid debt trap. Accordingly, the ANC supports the government fiscal stance with its associated cost containment measures. The ANC welcomed the labor market interventions. The ANC supports the engagement between government, organized labor, business and communities in dealing with, among others, the duration and the violent nature of strikes. The NEC further noted and welcomed the report indicating progress in the implementation of the national minimum wage. We trust that all social partners will speedily conclude all outstanding matters in this regard. Youth unemployment, in particular within the 15 to 24 years old cohort, must receive greater attention. To this end, the NEC adopted a proposal to massively broaden focused vocational training among this group. By so doing, government will develop much-needed technical skills in our economy, increase productivity, and reduce unemployment. A task team to implement this proposal has been established and is expected to enhance the program commencement by January 2017. While land reform remains the focus of our redistribution pillar, the NEC resolved that special attention be given to the production side as well. Support measures such as access to support measures such as access to finance and markets, quality and efficient extension services, infrastructure were identified. The land bank was placed under the National Treasury to ensure good corporate governance and improve financial performance and management. That purpose has been achieved. It will now be moved back where it belongs, and this mandate will be reviewed. There will be a special focus on rural areas and rural towns, and all underserviced areas will be the focus of such a development finance institution. There are continuing discussions on the role of development finance institution in supporting development and small and medium and micro enterprises. The NEC welcomed the increase in tourism arrival by 13% and 18% in January and February respectively, and resolved to put more effort to grow this industry as it is labor intensive. This will be a discussion to review the industrial incentive towards labor-absorbing sectors. In other words, we've agreed that we know of the incentive on the auto sector and others. We want to see a breakdown. Where do these incentives go? What are the results? Do we benefit from this incentive, or is it only sustaining these sectors? That is what we will be looking into. The assessment of ocean economy is that it could generate an estimated GDP contribution of 129 to 177 billion rand by 2013. In its 18 months operating period, it has already unlocked about 17 billion investment, meaning that as we started in 2013, up to now, there's progress. Unlocked about 17 billion investment, but we think the potential can go up to 177 billion rand. Progress has also been made to remove the electricity constraints. Now, rounds of IPP rollouts are in progress. The IEP and IRP, what is that in full, Enoch?
Integrated Energy Plan and Integrated Resource Plan.
There you are. Will be concluded soon. Government is working on improving the technical capacity of the infrastructure management, and there will be review of the portfolio to shift the focus towards labor-absorbing projects. On the report of the National Working Committee, the NEC received a report on the engagements that has been undertaken with ANC structures and other stakeholders on the alleged business influence on the state, as well as the Constitutional Court judgment relating to security upgrades at the President residence in Nkandla. Overwhelmingly, branches of the ANC confirmed the decision of the NWC not to recall the President. Branches emphasized the importance of unity of the movement, and accepting the apology of the President must contribute to the unity of the movement. As we accept that apology, we also reminded ourselves that we should devise a formula of dealing with the mistakes we are committing. Because sometimes we commit mistakes ourselves and we open ourselves up in that process. Following the call by the ANC for Commerce to provide any information about alleged business influence on the state, a number of comrades, 8 to be exact, came forward to engage with the Office of the Secretary General. It was unfortunate that only one of them could make a written submission on the matters. We said to them, give us a written submission so that we can attend to these issues. Only one did that. The allegation made were serious, they cannot be treated lightly, and many warrant a comprehensive investigation. The NEC has advised that the comrades to formalize their complaints to institutions that deal with complaints of this nature. The reason we say that is that when people fear making written submission, it means that they need protection that is institutional. And the NEC is agreeing that people can use that option now. The NEC acknowledged the progress made in strengthening the unity of the alliance following the recently held Provincial Alliance Summits. The outcomes of the candidate selection process are indicative of greater collaboration and cooperation between ANC and the alliance partners in the provinces. There was particular marked improvement on the cooperation among alliance partners in Mpumalanga. To strengthen the ANC organizational mobilization capacity, the NEC resolved to appoint Comrade Fikile Mbalula as the chairperson of the ANC subcommittee on organizing. That was the gap we left open when we restructured committees. That committee will work very closely with campaigns and elections. We wish him well in this task and have no doubt of his capacity to lead the ANC organizational machinery. The NEC congratulated the winner of the Comrades Marathon, David Khatebe, and commended him for joining other great sportsmen and women who have flown the South African flag high in this greatest race of human endurance. The ANC has called on all its members to close ranks and dedicate themselves to working for the overwhelming victory of the ANC in local government election. Everything else must be subordinate to elections work. Our branches must effectively play the role of leading society and advancing people's power in every community. Thank you very much. That's the end of the statement. No questions will be allowed, sir.
No, we're a democratic organization. We allow even Matuma to ask questions. I saw him coming.
Where is he?
Welcome, Melon Guardian.
Has he just arrived?
Yeah, he was late.
How can he ask questions if he arrived so late?
It's better you allow him to ask questions because he will write in any case. Shall we take questions? Tandabantu from ENCA. I want Tandabantu and then Olim Gambi, because I know they will ask the same question. And then I will take two of you. Tandabantu, where's my mic?
Was you ready?
No, you were very clear. The statements, the last person will be Natasha.
SG, good morning. Good morning to you.
Morning, Tandabantu.
How would you characterize the nature of the NEC discussions on state capture and the discussions on the internal organizational inquiry being held on the matter in your office? Especially seeing as though the president was at pains to tell the Gauteng PGC some weeks ago that the state capture thing is not a big issue at all. Moreover, what was the NEC's response to NEC member and Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan's media statement calling on South Africans to protect the Treasury from nefarious forces trying to subvert democracy and the rule of law? And lastly, you've asked these 8 comrades to make submissions to the relevant organizations regarding state capture. Which organizations is that? And is there any particular reason why, after 8 people came and laid these allegations at your door, they did not make a formal written declaration? And last but not least, could you extrapolate on where the land bank will be moved to and why exactly?
Pass it to your colleague, Olim Gambi.
Thank you very much. Kolim Gambi, ENCA. Just following on the state capture issue, SG, the CEO of ESCOM, Brian Molefe, recently came out to say he feels that the treatment of the Gupta family is tantamount to xenophobia. Perhaps the question here, therefore, is he making light of a situation that was actually described by the previous NEC as having the potential to undermine and erode the credibility of the ANC in the eyes of the people? The second question relates to local government. The question simply is, SG, where does the process move to now? So those candidates that have been nominated, do their names then get submitted to the IEC, and if so, when does that happen? And are appeals, perhaps even by the communities, going to be accepted post these processes that this list has gone through? I'll leave it there for now.
Thanks, Collie. I allowed ENCA 2 questions because I'm not going to come back to ENCA. Pass to the 2.
Bonte Williams. Bonte Williams from ANN7.
Yes?
Right. Well, first thing is, I understand that, some people did indeed submit...
Please produce yourself.
I did. I said I'm Bonte Williams.
Okay.
From ANN7. Okay, well, there's been all these allegations about the Guptas and the interference and appointments in government and amongst deputy ministers and so on. So I'm just wondering that amongst those people that did submit, did you have something from perhaps Deputy Minister Mcebisi Jonas? Did you have something maybe from former MP Feki Mentor, and of course former DCI as head Mr. Maseko? And also, the NEC has now decided that it is no longer participating in this investigation because it's, the people that have come forward must go to relevant authorities. And I'm wondering whether this signals that the NEC's own probe of the Gupta's allegations of state capture are no longer a concern, and that you are closed a probe as per the NEC of the ANC. And just another one, just a last one. There is the small matter of Nkandla, and I wonder if it was discussed when Treasury actually will reveal how much the president will pay. I know we were supposed to be somewhere around the end of June. I'm just wondering if there is a date and whether this matter was indeed raised at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Pass to your neighbor on your left.
Yes, sir.
No, it's on.
All right, good morning and thank you for taking my question, SG. It's Bunolo from the UH.
Bunolo.
Yes, sir. With regard to the matter between South Africa's four major banking groups and Oakville Investments, can you confirm?
In other words, please speak up.
With regard to the matter between South Africa's four major banking groups and Oakville Investments, can you confirm that the NEC discussed this particular matter? Secondly, is it correct to say that the NEC's assessment on this particular matter was that the banks did collude in closing the accounts of Oakville Investments? Third, if so, how does the ANC plan to deal with this matter? And then lastly, was there political pressure? Is it the view of the ANC that there was political pressure on the banks to cut ties with Oakville Investments? Thank you.
Thanks, Bunolo. I pass it to Natasha on your far left. Shall I say ultra left?
Natasha from
Ultra left in the business.
Not in the
Natasha from the Business Day. Two questions. S&P is due this week, at the end of this week, to make a decision on whether it's going to downgrade the country or not, our sovereign ratings. The question about, you noted that the following, there were critical points to halt the decline in the economy, and among them was private investments. Did you discuss the political issues that have been raised by some of the ratings agencies in the run-up to this review? And the second question is around the re-evaluation of the role of SOEs. Can you provide more clarity on that? What do you mean by re-evaluating the role of SOEs? Thank you.
I'm making an assumption that you think we know the political issues that would have been raised by rating agencies.
Well, there were issues around political stability that were raised by the...
Okay. That's it?
Which way?
This way.
I'm a Milan.
Man, niachiarisha kwa ninangu.
Uten gonas laula.
Don't say I'm bringing it back.
No. It does not belong to anybody.
Kwenze njani gonas laula ngoku?
You see, it's you and NN7.
Njani ngoku?
Bunolo, NN7. And partake of where you pass it to...
SG, I want to know as to whether the issue of a continuing a political split between the Minister of Finance, Pravin Gordhan, and the Helps was discussed at the NEC,
And
as to whether it was discussed at the NEC and whether there was any resolution, because this issue is sufficient to roll.
Let's take those, SG. I see there are three questions which is asked almost like one question. The last question in Bunolo is the same question about whether the issue was discussed, ministers, the SPET, and so on. So there is one question asked by three people, so we can answer that.
we're giving you a summary of the discussions in the NEC. Now all of you ask, did we discuss what you thought we would discuss? You know, the summary of that statement summarizes issues that were discussed. So if it's not in that statement, you want to raise a question, pose the question. Don't ask the question whether it was discussed. Because if I say yes or no, what is the issue? The discussion of the ANC on state capture, that debate is going to continue for a long time. One of the issues that we dealt with in the NEC was the report on the meeting of the Secretaries General of Liberation Movements in the region. Out of that report, the issue of state capture emerged as a major issue, not only for South Africa, for all of us in the region. So that debate will continue because it is characterized as a threat to the revolution. And we'll continue characterizing it like that. And that debate will continue all the time. That's how I can characterize the discussion of the state capture. One of the things that I think many of us must disabuse ourselves of is this question of ring-fencing the Minister of Finance and put him out there as an institution. One time I engaged with a journalist who wrote a big article of Pravin Gordhan versus the president. And I said to this journalist, I say, when you do that, you are actually, even if you want to do that to express love for Pravin, you are actually harming him. Because you make him to be targeted as an institution called Pravin Gordhan. And I call institution. There is a Minister of Finance in a cabinet of President Jacob Zuma. That's it. And we must deal with that matter is that if there are problems in the Ministry of Finance, let's deal with them as such. And that's why it becomes important for us to disabuse ourselves of this thing of all the time taking him out of the cabinet collective and put him somewhere as an institution. It's dangerous. You are actually weakening him in the collective. The institutions that we refer to, all we are saying is that the NEC created an avenue, say, come and report, want to deal with this matter. It's quite a serious matter. If you make an allegation that a family makes appointments in the cabinet and it does influence businesses and so forth, it's quite serious. And we say, give us details of that because we can only deal with that with facts. And when people return say, no, we prefer an independent institution so that we can be protected, it's an option that people opted for. And when they don't come forward to the ANC cannot force them. What I will not do is to say who came forward, who didn't come forward. I will not to venture into names because somebody was venturing into Kebisi, Fenki, somebody was venturing into those names. I don't think it is correct for me to say these 8 people who arrived is X, Y, and Z. It can't be correct. I say 8 people came forward. Only one was prepared to make a written submission. That made the exercise fruitless for us because we wanted to have those details so that we can actually say this is how we take this process forward. But if people say we fear for ourselves and we fear for our jobs, if we come forward and disclose who we are, we may be targeted, so please appoint an independent. And we say go to the institutions. There are institutions. If you think that it is risky to raise your issues with the ANC, then go to the institutions. They are there. There are many institutions. If it's criminal, police are there. If you want investigation, you can go to the Auditor General, you can go to the Public Protector, you can go to many Chapter 9 institutions. If that is the option that comrades take, they think that their own organization, if they give detail to their own organization, that will open them up. The organization cannot say, please come, please come. It can't work that way. That is all we're saying. We say this, but it doesn't mean that we're walking away from it. We'll continue monitoring that space as an organization. But if you make allegations, you must be bold enough to take them through. And one of the consequences is that if you get sacrificed in the process for a good cause, that is what we did all our lives, sacrificing for a good cause. But if you became clay feet, you develop clay feet in the process, the ANC cannot push you to do anything more. A statement that the treatment of Gupta is xenophobic. I don't want to be a spokesperson of Prime Minister, really. I don't want to be. But the reality of the matter is that when we looked into the question of the banks, we said the country must look into what looks as collusion among the banks. That thing cannot be ignored, because if banks have colluded on this matter, that is bad. Number two, we must look into the threat to employment, because that will be a consequence of we look at as third one, the capacity of the bank to close businesses at will without any obligation to disclose reasons. It's dangerous. It's too big a power given to institutions without an obligation to disclose. And that's why we said, if there is an issue of non-compliance with the rules, that should be the issue, clear-cut. There's non-compliance in terms of us, because the banking sector is regulated, and there are quite a number of areas that are specifically regulated in the banking sector. One, the movement of money. Is there any suspicion of working with listed people? Is there any suspicion of corruption? And all those issues. Can the origin of the money not be traced? Can the destination of the money not be traced? All those issues are within the regulation of the banking sector. But at least when there is a question about, there's suspicion of collusion, there must be the catalyst to society to say, no, there's no collusion. We took this decision independently. And not just say that, and say, at least even if it's at a general level, is that these are the issues that influence the decision. If we leave it as is, and we said the government actually must have the capacity to deal with that, because it can have access to the regulator. And our view is that we should never allow injustice to be exercised under the disguise of being strict with regulations. Because, so it is not xenophobic. I don't know the xenophobic part of it, but it is the unfair part is that we close the banks of that, and that's it. And nobody can expect an experience, because you're protected that you can't discuss anything with the third party on the client-bank relation. But there is a question of whether there's collusion. At the bank not having too much power to destroy companies. They may even destroy companies that are growing through BEE here if they begin to threaten certain interests. There must be an element of explanation of these accounts were closed on this basis. That's all we're saying. We're not being judgmental on the banks. We don't want to talk about xenophobic. It's not our statement. Where to from now on local government? We're busy actually capturing our candidates now. We'll register them. The deadline is the 2nd of June, which is Thursday. We'll register our candidates. That is where we are. And somebody asked whether there will be appeal beyond that. You see, we gave you an explanation that this thing come from the branches, communities, regions, provinces, NLC. That's where it has gone. What we cannot rule out is that if I'm ambitious enough to say every time we're ruling against me, I take to the next level, it is confirmed, it takes to another level, it is confirmed. We can't help that, we can't tamper with individual ambitions. But our call is that ANC members must appreciate that we've gone through a process, we've concluded it now, we are registering candidates. There will be, we agreed in the NEC that we'll pay attention to areas where there are issues raised. We'll attend to them as the NEC, go there, listen, see how they are managed. That will continue. It happens after every election. I've never seen elections where people are just happy. On the last 8 years, I have ran 8 list processes, 8 of them. And in all of them, there are always people who are not happy. Some of them genuinely kicked out, others driven by their individual concerns. If I can give you my phone and you read it, you see some people that says, I'm the person who is preferred by the community now. And I always say, even if you must say so yourself, fine. We must run processes understanding that it is not about satisfying everybody. There will be only one ward candidate in every ward. We have a limited number of PR candidates in every municipality. In the process, many will be cut out of the process. People must be accepting that process and the outcome. That's what we're saying. So the allegations by Deputy Minister Jonas Fenki and others, we are not going to get into those details, but Amtabi said this, Ufenki said this, Ubana said this, and so forth. We're not going to get into that. Implementation of the Concord. If you ask us how far that is, I'm sure you should be knowing that you are asking a wrong institution. The judgment is clear. The Treasury must go and assess the cost and determine a reasonable percentage that must be paid. And the Treasury is given 60 days. And the President is given 45 days to comply. If you ask the NEC of the ANC to deal with that, you're going to end up really, there's something wrong with that.
I thought the intention brought it up, something sensible.
All I'm saying is the Treasury is in the judgment, must do this in 60 days. In 45 days, the President must comply. What we said, we support the judgment. We're urging state institutions involved to implement. Now, it can't be the business of the NEC to get into Treasury and call the team of bureaucrats there. How far are you? Actually, if we can do that, we'll be sitting here and say, there is a report that the ANC is interfering with the National Treasury. Allow the National Treasury to continue doing its work, do its assessment, determine what should be paid, and that will be delivered to the court, and the President will be told, here is what you should pay, and he is given 45 days to do so. If the ANC gets the, actually in the judgment there is even specific that you should pay personally. Meaning that the ANC, even if it is tempted, cannot have a fundraising activity. Say, we're raising funds for this money, we'll pay on behalf of the President. We will be in contempt of the court. Basically, this question is inviting us to act in contempt of the court. Now, Was there any political pressure on the banks to close their accounts? If the banks can't talk about themselves, we can't understand it until they say so. If they can't say so, they refuse to talk to anybody on the basis that, listen, it is our business with our client. Where do you come in? So how would we know whether there was political pressure or not? We can't know that because the banks have closed their accounts. They can't say anything about it. To us, that is the strangest part, because if we want to educate society, we must be able to say these accounts were closed because there was this transgression. And educate society. For example, in the NSC, we took a decision that there must be workshops to educate publicly exposed persons, publicly exposed persons, who are subjected to enhanced due diligence. You are subjected to know your person, you are subject to due diligence. We are subject to something called enhanced due diligence because we are personally exposed persons. And I was saying to Zizi, Zizi, to be political activity in South Africa is an offense. You are guilty until you prove otherwise. That's what it means, that there's a specific rule set aside for political exposed persons, us and our families, which doesn't apply to anybody else, meaning that we are assumed to be guilty until we prove otherwise. That's what it means, in essence. So we cannot answer the question whether there was political pressure or not. We'll not know that. Only the banks know. Political issues raised by the rating agencies. When we met we met Moody's when they were here. We met Standard and Poor.
No, poor. Poor is in Afrikaans.
No, I don't want to say poor. They are not poor. Standard and Poor. We met them when they were here. One of the issues that we raised is that we are not doing things to impress rating agencies. We're doing work that is good for the country, and the rating agencies must rate that work. For example, why is it, because one of the issues that is raised as political is there is a coming conference of the ANC where there will be a contest. And the question we ask is that when there's a contest in the Labour Party in Britain, there is no halubalu, and they contest, Miliband brothers contest each other, the younger one wins. He goes and leads the Labour Party in the elections. His campaign is a disaster. He gets removed on the feet, there are new contestation. It's never described as political instability. Why should it be political instability when we go to a conference? We'll go to a conference every 5 years. On the 16th to the 20th of December, every 5 years we'll be in the conference of the ANC. And one of the business of that conference will be election of leadership. It was in 2012, it will be 2017, it will be 2022, it will be 2027, it will be 2032, you can continue counting. Why every time we go to a conference, that is called internal party democracy. Why is it regarded as stability when it is in South Africa, but it is seen as internal political party democracy when it is in developed world? And that is the question. So we dealt with those issues. The rating agents must rate us on the work we do, but we are not just doing things to impress rating agents. Rating agents must see the work we're doing and rate us accordingly. What is it? Continued tensions between minister and whatever. We never discussed that issue. We never discussed it. We asked it. whenever I discuss the question of the Minister of Finance and that, all we're saying is that let's help the Minister of Finance if we love him by not institutionalizing him. Let's not do that. It is going to be dangerous for him because you're not just counterposing the minister to the president, you're going to make all the other cabinet colleagues suspicious of this super minister who is an institution. To me, it's a mistake. Okay.
Thanks, SG.
On the land bank?
The land bank is moving
to agriculture. That is where it belongs.
No, the answer is in the statement.
No, let me explain to you. The land bank goes to agriculture, that's where it belongs. Okay. It was transferred to National Treasury to stabilize governance and finance. That has been achieved. It must go back to it belongs. The land bank should facilitate development in that sector. Let me give you an example. If you raise a loan with the land bank, it should not be more difficult to get a loan from the land bank for agricultural purposes than go to Standard Bank. Because as a DFI, it must, one, have risk appetite, that is what it should have. Two, it must support developmental initiative. It must appreciate the fact that it will fund farmers who are developing. Very difficult, others unsustainable, it must help them. Once they mature and becomes a good sector, the private sector is going to go in and contest them. But it's a development finance institution, it must have the risk appetite, it must support development. And you can't support it by being too financial oriented and all that is looked at whether you make profit or that. If you make a lot of profit, but there is no development of emerging farmers, the purpose is wrong. For example, let me give you an example. If I'm in a communal land, I can hardly access money from the land bank because I will have no title deed. But in that communal land, I can produce food and contribute to food security. It is a development institution that must understand that reality more than a commercial bank. And the only way it can is when it is working with that sector.
Thanks, Tandabantu. I'm taking my last three hands in front row. I'll start with Mkaya from Kaya FM. Mkaya, SG wants to see you. Please come somewhere here.
Hi, good day to you.
Yeah, we can hear you, Mkaya.
Great. Just a quick one.
No, introduce yourself, Mkaya.
It's Kaya here from Kaya FM News.
I like that. It's Kaya from Kaya FM.
Mr. Mantashe, I just wanted to get a bit of a clarity regarding the state capture. You know, President Jacob Zuma seems to say that, there's no such, people are just making a huge issue out of nothing. He talks about judiciary, talks about the legislature, saying that you can't capture the states. So do you believe that there's a very united voice and a clear understanding of what state capture is all about, especially within the ANC itself? And just regarding the preparations to local government elections, is perhaps the ANC doing more campaigns, particularly in provinces like KwaZulu-Natal, where political killings are very much, synonymous with the province?
How many do you know?
I think I know about 6. Yeah, it could be more than that, actually. I stand to be corrected. So I was just hoping to get a comment to that. Thank you so much.
Could be less than that. Thanks, Mkaya.
Marika from Jacaranda FM. Kaya kind of touched on it now. We saw a lot of violence, especially this year, when it comes to protests. And I know you touched on the fact saying that it's criminality. But many of us here were in Bwani, many of us were in Hammanskraal last week, and people are very disenfranchised. They're saying that they're not going to participate in the municipal elections. So what do you as a party do, A, to try and stop this violence that we're seeing here with the unhappiness, and also what do you do to either calm it down, to get people to vote, to participate in this democratic process that we have, and also what would you say to the common man on the ground here, the people that are taking part in these protests, how they should vent their anger in another way?
Thank you. Kaya, no. Please pass it to Matuma. I don't want Melon Garden to ask last question, because that could be our sweeper.
Yeah. Just to add on what Kaya said, and I want to quote directly what the President said, and you will help us understand if there's a different understanding of state capture within the ANC. He says that if you talk about state capture, you are misleading the people. You are taking a small issue and making it a big issue. And also on the issue of Des van Rooyen, the Minister of who was appointed Minister of Finance in December. He says that he appointed a minister, a well-trained cadre. He was the best candidate to take over the control of the economy. Instead, I was castigated worldwide, including by senior members of the organization. I then realized I had touched the wrong nerve. I was told I never consulted before making the appointment. I said to myself, Africa must begin, Africa must end. I just need your reaction to that, because the Deputy President had a different view on that, and acknowledged that it was a mistake to appoint Des van Rooyen into that portfolio.
Pastor, I've got my last three hands.
Omar Mutasa, BBC Africa. SG, we have seen the SANEF, South African National Editors Forum, and the COSATU authorities criticizing the SABC's decision of banning footages of demonstrators, banning properties and whatever. You, as the ruling party, ANC, do you support the SABC decision of banning demonstrators, banning properties, government properties, or even public properties of people? And do you think for SABC banning these footages, will it deter or will it stop the demonstrators to keep on asking more of their service deliveries and other issues? Thank you.
Thank you. BBC.
Molo SG.
Hello.
Kunjani tata?
Siyaphila ntombi, kunjani?
Ndiyaphila nam. Mthetha noZimasa from Reuters News. I have two questions. One about the Auditor General's releasing results, municipal results tomorrow, audit results tomorrow. What is the ANC doing and what structures are in place to make sure that the candidates that you have on your lists are held accountable if their municipalities are found to have not to have clean audit records? And what punitive measures are there? I mean, are you going to remove these people or not? If you said that there are people who must for continuity, there are people who were there and will continue to be there. So if a person's municipality is found not to have a clean audit record, what does that mean? What would you do about it? And what are the punitive measures for it? And the second question is about the recent It's not about your statement, actually. It's about the AU court which convicted the Chad former president. And I just want to find out what the ANC thinks about that. And
Former president?
The Chad former president who was, yes, Hossein Habre, who was convicted of life in jail for human rights violations by a special AU court in Senegal. And whether, do you think this is a better option for Africa to have our own courts like that, or because you also mentioned last year about the IEC and the South Africa wanting to pull out of the IEC. So I just want to pick your brains about that and your thoughts about that process.
Pass to your left.
Good afternoon.
Keep in mind you are a sweeper, so it's important you ask the most relevant questions.
Okay, good afternoon. It's Kevin Crowley from Bloomberg News. Earlier, Secretary General, you confirmed the decision not to recall the president. Can you talk us through that decision? And will there be any other disciplinary consequences from the ANC beyond the ruling by the Constitutional Court that they should pay back some of the money? Thank you very much.
That's why I started with you, Oli, because I know you don't like competition. Today we have a new sweeper. You always a sweeper. Today we have a new sweeper. What do you want to ask, Oli?
I have an option not to reply.
Thank you very much. The issue of violence, Secretary General, there does seem to be a clear issue of animosity between the ANC and the EFF, and I think that was demonstrated in the past weekend, both in Durban and I think in Mpumalanga. The ANC's stance, in fact, perhaps I should ask this question, because the EFF is clear that the ANC fears the EFF because of the groundswell of support that the EFF seems to be enjoying from communities. And so therefore the question is the ANC really fearful of the EFF? Is that what is causing this violence? And perhaps the last one will be, the ANC, has it discussed really what is at the heart of the violence that is coming out of KZN, talking internal ANC politics now? What really is at the center of that? Have you been able to discuss that?
SG, that was the usual sweeper.
And nobody will follow me when I leave.
Yeah, there are two people. There are two people who are. No, wait. There are two people who are suspects of that. Situma from City Press and the one who just asked the question now. No problem, yeah. But let me listen to you.
A court must open with yes, no, I don't know.
We never, by the way, we never give yes or no answers. But you go ahead.
I know. That's my hope. But I'm hoping, because I know there are quite a lot of always quoted, well-placed sources within the ANC. So if it was agreed that the apology of the president is accepted, I'm not going to read about it in a Sunday newspaper that there's discussion the president will not be serving his full term. Can you confirm that it was not a question of the president was not discussed whether he served his term or whether the Nkandla matter was a complication during the meeting of the ANC?
This is what happens when you have clarified the purpose of the conference. Then people ask much more irrelevant questions, SG. But I think you should answer that question.
I will.
Yeah, it may just be important that we answer.
I will answer.
No, don't. I will answer you. No, I will answer you.
No, I will answer.
Thula umwazi endlini.
Yintoni umwazi endlini? Thula akhona ufuna uyiphendula apha.
Hayi.
Hlala. Let me give you a philosophical answer to this thing of state capture, president saying this, DP saying this. One thing about concepts is that concepts get discussed to perception, to perfection. The first thing is that state capture, when we presented this issue, we categorized it into three. And that debate will continue. It's not going to stop because so and so. Nobody will ban that discussion. We talked of corporate capture first, where individuals are captured by companies. And those companies use them. And when they come to meetings of the party, they become proxies of business interests. I said that is the first phase. The second phase is when that influence go into influencing the state. The state is not government. The state is the machinery. The government come and go, the state remains. Once you begin to see the state use to protect business interests, then the state gets captured in the process. If there is a tender, there is a machinery in a department that facilitate allocation of tenders to a particular business, then you see that trend moving on. Then that state is captured. And we say, once that goes beyond that point and the state security apparatus are used to eliminate opponents, we must now begin to appreciate that we're drifting into a mafia state. That is a philosophical question. It's not about whether the president is right or the deputy president is not right. That's not the issue. And that's why it becomes important for the media to facilitate quality debates on these issues. Rather than being just speaking, well, the president said this, the DP said this, therefore they disagree on this matter. The media must facilitate quality debates on conceptual issues. If you don't do that, you are actually depriving society of engagement. So I'm living that and said, to me, it's not the issue what the president says or what the TP says. The issue is when we begin to see trends, it is our responsibility politically to extrapolate them into the future and develop scenarios. Okay, what next? If you capture Ziz and Ziz in every meeting protects a particular company, what is wrong with Ziz? Then you see as we move on, that number increases. There are now 3, there are now 4, there are now 5. You must worry that here there is corporate capture. And once people are in government and they run departments and therefore run the state, and you begin to see that being exported to the state, you must worry that the state can be captured. And the question of state capture is not new to South Africa, and it will not end here. It's a reality facing many countries. And when they degenerate into mafia states, then the state and private interests cannot be distinguished. South Africa must never drift into that state. But we're not going to just pray for it. We must be engaging it robustly and refuse to succumb to pressure not to talk about it. That is the first one. Violence becoming synonymous with KZN. It's raised twice, this question. And I asked specifically the question that says, how many of these incidents are you talking about? More or less. And then you take an option of exaggerating them. Say there are 6, or 8. It's an exaggeration. Now, once you find it necessary to exaggerate, you must know that you are developing a narrative, and facts do not matter. How many out of how many wards that have ran PGMs? You can only develop a situation where you call a trend if it is the number is growing to a big number. Is those incidents a percent of the PGMs in KZN? Let's start from there. I'm not denying that there are areas in KZN where there are tensions. Person getting shot in Emalahleni, the shooting in a public meeting in Changa, the killing of a councillor, because now even if that councillor in Nongoma, there's confusion of whether it is political or taxi-related violence. Because of the time and environment, it will all be put into violence in the elections in KZN. Do you get my point? And all we're saying is that before you talk of trends, I had a discussion with a good friend of mine that I will not mention here, and said to them, a problem with our media is that negativity constitutes news. That is a problem. And once you start seeing negativity as constituting news, you will ignore facts. Once there is a conflict in the regionalist conference in Rustenburg, you say there is bloodshed in the northwest. But the reality is that there has been conflict in the regionalist conference in Rustenburg. Say so in reporting. Don't make it a general statement that there is bloodshed in the northwest. Don't say there is bloodshed in KZN. KZN is having 11 regions of the ANC. There are 11. They're not 6, they're not 8. The second one is the Eastern Cape with 8. There's 11 regions. How many incidents of violence happened in the South Coast? How many happened in Herikwala? How many happened in Bakulus? How many happened? Once you do that analysis, then you will be reporting objectively and begin to help even us to access your information and deal with the situation differently. But once you come across 1 or 2 incidents, then you generalize. I don't even read your newspaper, I put it aside. You're in a radio station, I switch it off. I switch to Mkhabwanen. Do you get my point? Because, but here is the station. It doesn't pay attention to facts. It just generalizes everything. It is wrong and bad journalism for me. Because we are also relying on you to follow certain things. But you must be a reliable source of information for us to act. But if you become an unreliable source of information, you're not helpful to us. We can as well do our own field work. Go to Matatiel on Friday, as I do. Go there, walk in the villages myself, talk to people, go to Ward 15, go to Ward 25, go to Ward 11, where they were. Then I go there physically, because I can't rely on your information, because half the time is exaggeration of facts. Now, the other one is that violence reflecting unhappiness, people saying they will not vote. And no, the first point is, you talk of Hammanskraal, and you take the violence in Hammanskraal as service delivery protest, when the reality of the matter is occupation of land illegally. When you react to that, is service delivery. Now, then won't vote unless you allow us to occupy this land illegally. How do we convince us people out of that? No, you don't need to convince people out of that. People must know that there should be proper processes to get onto a piece of land. Don't just grab it. And if we say, you are grabbing this land, get out of here, so I will not vote, then we must go and convince you. It can't be. People must appreciate that when they do that, they create other complications because it's unplanned occupation of land. Therefore, there is no provision for development in that area. In 2 years' time, there will be a big outcry that there is no sewer system, there is no water, there is no that. And at that point in time, nobody will report that that land was occupied illegally in the first place. And there is no plan. And biggest complication, there will be no address for voting. You can't be saying, I am staying in number. So it's not numbered. You just set then put checked. And you're creating all sorts of development and spatial planning complications on that issue. Now, when people are unhappy, we must engage them, talk to them all the time. And we do that. That's why even in the Hammanskraal case, the question ends at the violence. It doesn't talk to the visit by Comrade Paul Mashatile there and the agreement on how to move ahead with that issue. People will talk of violence in Allendale and stop there and not say, Paul went to Allendale and engaged with the community there and came to an agreement. That is where subjectivity comes in reporting. Because Paul has been in Hammanskraal, discussed with that community, stopped the violence, and continued with life. Commitments by the government will do X, Y, and Z. A chief wants to have a pound of flesh out of that. And those are the issues we deal with every day. But your question must not stop at the violence. It must cover the fence that Comrade Paul Mashatile, chairman of the ANC in Gauteng, who happened to the MEC for Human Settlement, did visit the place. Okay, that's the point. And then when you say they said they will not vote, they said they will not vote when there was violence. You're not adding that after Paul visited, there was agreement on how to deal with the problem, and therefore the question of no voting became a non-issue. Yes.
We did ask the community afterwards, because we were there.
Now, the problem that I will have is when you become a community representative, then that worries me. I can't deal with that you are now a community representative. I can't. That I can't handle. What I will handle is that when the problem in that community, ANC structures are directed to go and engage with communities. Now I must go to Jacaranda and look for the community representative in Jacaranda, not in Hammanskraal. Then that I can't handle. Okay. Again, Comrade Matuma, because you came to ask a specific question, the media briefing is of no issue, is not an issue for you. You wanted to ask about DAS. Well-trained, best kid, and the devil said it was a mistake. I don't think we should get into those polemics. What we should appreciate is that there was an appointment of a minister, there was a crisis, that decision was changed, full stop. Yeah? And after that decision was changed, stability came back, we begin to build on the currency, more confidence in the economy and so forth. How do we move forward from that? Now, to say whether it was the right appointment or wrong appointment, I don't think I should get into those polemical debates. They are important for you. For me, they are not important. What is important for me is that is there stability in the area of fiscal management now, as we sit here. And I'm submitting the stability in our fiscal management. And I end there. That is what is of interest to me. Whether the Des was a write-up or not is a non-issue for me. Now, we have a Minister of Finance called Pravin Gordhan. Is there stability in fiscal management? Yes, there is. Full stop. Sanef and Kosatu criticizing every penny of voting. And I think that is again, this is an issue that should be debated by you. Say to us, when you continue showing distraction and other people say that, oh, distraction is acceptable, they all use that as a tool. You ban factories in Mandini, they are all over the face. ANC show them regularly in their snippets. They're that friend. And Nkandla, that one. You see, that one. I love that one. So you're saying, that one. Oh, I know, it's in SABC, that one. Port said, that one. And say, you should, it's a political question. I'm busy with investigation. Take that to politicians. Now, ANC also does the same thing, show certain snippets. If you show a banning factory every day, or every 2 hours, or every hour, when you show those snippets, what is the impact of that on society and how society thinks? And I think the media must just think about how does it influence society. You know, when in our consultation with a number of stakeholders, we raised the issue of silence on anarchy and even glorify it if it is seen to be destabilizing the ANC. Do you get my point? If it destabilizes the ANC, you glorify it. Half the time was silence on anarchy. Once there is reaction to anarchy, you want to see repression out of every attempt to deal with anarchy. When there is that narrative in society, where a sick society that thinks that we must destroy ourselves with the hope that there will be something new out of a destroyed country. That is a strange starting point for South Africa, for me. That destroyed, ban everything, ban university, ban schools, ban everything. Out of that carcass, there will be new life coming up. So when? It has a very limited life because it can only grow as far as a fly. That's how it can go. That is a strange outlook of the South African society, that we celebrate destruction. Hopefully there will be something new out of it. And I think the media must deal with that issue and have a debate on it. And I think Sanef and Kosatu's condemnation is short-sighted. It is not dealing with the content. You see, I'm not sure if it serves society to show destruction. You know, I'm not convinced about that. But if you think that that is what inspires society, fine. Show destruction, never shown any development. I don't see many pictures in the media capturing development. I'm seeing many pictures capturing destruction. If we think that is the right way, fine. And that is the debate that is on this matter. It's not about Sanef or Kosatu condemning this or agreeing with that. It's about what is the role of the media on the outlook of society, your influence in how society thinks. If people say, will not vote, you repeat that every 30 minutes. But when people say, will vote in our thousands, it doesn't get coverage. Basically, we are promoting boycott of voting without saying so. And that's my view on this matter, that Sanef and Kosat can criticize, but the debate is not about the decision of the SAPC. The debate should be how should media influence society and thinking in society? To influence it by showing destruction. If you promote destruction, society will be destructive. If we are beginning to promote development and growth, society will have a different orientation. That is the power of the media. Clean audit and failure that in municipalities. I don't think audit is only about clean audits. If I'm working in a municipality, I'm a mayor. I was a mayor of Boksburg.
For how many hours?
For 3 hours. Kole, I want you to capture that as a headline. I was a mayor of Boksburg for 3 hours.
You don't want to know the reasons why.
And the ANC caucus took a decision after that acting that this man will never act. I can be accused of being hostile to our former colonizers. You know? No, I'm not. I've put it back. Now, when I was that mayor for 3 hours and a councillor for 5 years, the preoccupation was not a clean audit, was continuous improvement. Because if I run a municipality, I find it with a disclaimer, and I take it to qualified, that's progress. Okay, if I take it further to unqualified, that's progress. Okay, it's a route to clean audit. Okay, that's it. So my preoccupation when I was a councillor was continuous improvement of the municipality. Not in audit, in all respects, service delivery. That's why if you go to the City of Endless Opportunity, Boksburg, you will see the evidence of that commitment. You go to Fosloras, you'll find a clinic in that township after every 5 kilometers, because not for audit purposes, for the service delivered by the municipality to society. Okay? To get my point? You will see, I can take you to Rose there and say, we developed K90 up to take over pressure on the interchange on Rietfontein Road, N21 and the Northern Road. We built this. Out of that, developed K90 North shopping complex and show you that that is the purpose of running a municipality. Okay, so clean audit is an outcome. I'm giving you the same answer I gave about rating agencies, that we're not just working to impress rating agencies. We must do the right thing, and the consequence of doing the right thing should be a clean audit. Now, and when a municipality has done that, in selecting candidates, for mayoral candidates, all that, that debate will be factored in. Where was Ekurhuleni 5 years ago? Where is it today? Okay, where is Joburg now after 5 years? That debate will be factored in. Okay, that's what we're doing. We're not just looking at audit results. I'm not sure if the question of the former president of Chad, I should venture into that. But when we dealt with ICC, we said we'd prefer to strengthen the Human Rights Court in Africa. That's what we said. And that is the position of the ANC and the ICC. Actually, we remain convinced that ICC doesn't serve the purpose. It has totally deviated from the purpose. Any other disciplinary action against the president, if you listen to me giving you the statement, there is no such a decision. That That we have accepted the apology, we must unite the ANC and so forth. There is no statement that says what will unify the ANC more is when you take your president to the disciplinary committee. There is no such a decision. It is that accepting that apology must contribute to the unity of the ANC. That's what we should invest in. Violence in Gambia is a clear indication of animosity between ANC and F. No, it is not. The ANC is an agent for change and it thrives under stability. EFF, as part of its strategy, is anarchy and destruction. Don't counterpose us to them. Destruction and anarchy is their strategy, is inherent to their strategy. It is not part of us. We do better when there's stability. So, we're not driven by fear of the EFF. That's not what drives us. You see, I want you to internalize this concept. We're not driven by fear. Okay. We're driven by aspirations. We aspire to be an embodiment of the interests and aspiration of the majority of South Africans. That's what drives us. Not running away from EFF. I say I read overall, I run for cover. If I can start doing that, I will run away from the red ants. Every time I see the red ants in a truck, I run for cover. I can't do that. That's not what drives us. It's not part of our strategy to have anarchy and destruction in society. But it's a reality that we must confront. Now, my friend here, Ubuntu Williams, umlungu namfondeni wang Williams.
I'm sure you understand.
I would never acknowledge for not terming full term. Now, I don't think I should answer questions of what to discuss over a bottle of wine or beer. And some of your friends in the ANC wish that the president will not serve the full term, and they have that discussion with you. Now you put it to me. I don't think you should drag me into that space. Gundu, it can be. You see, that's the essence of what is called a source. A source kukuthi ka unisaya lapha indoda ihleba into ethile kube sowubhala. And with the rules, if I get 2 sources, I'm covered. If I get 3, I've done all. You don't even check the authenticity of the information that the people about how it is. Sources, that's my view about sources. I want sources. You can't put a face. Somebody who is just faceless. It's called a source. And you say you are a leader. I get very worried when you call them senior leaders of the ANC. There is no leader who is a source. Okay? At the point of allowing yourself to be a source, you give away your leadership role. You become a spy for a journalist. That's it. So you are not a leader. At that point, we negate the leadership. We source. In any structure, that thing. It was never discussed in any structure, but you have the audacity of going around, and now Uzana, you are Palentioba. Actually, when you call Uzman, please come, please.
Now, just as you on the, sometimes the allergy Mgambi to debate what may be correct of us as a media. On the issue that the SG is raising about just beyond the limits of freedom of the media, freedom of the press, our responsibility as a media to influence society. One of the issues SG which was found during the time of political violence, the role which was played by the media, in fact, to perpetuate violence at the time. One of the studies in meeting with media houses, I'm sure many of us were not there, I was not there as well. I was still very young. What was discovered was that the more you carry on front pages mutilated bodies, decapitated body of one faction, it inspired that one faction for retaliation and revenge. That is the role of pictures at that time. It was found that, look, the more you have more pictures of these mutilated and decapitated bodies of one faction, it inspired one faction to do the same. So in the end, there's this sparing kind of violence. I'm making this example because we may undermine the power of visuals and images in terms of the psyche of society. And I don't think we must be allergic to debate. I know sometimes whenever there's a debate about media, you are seen as the most person who are against the constitution and democratic.
No.
Because
the first thing is that you raise an issue about Xoli is attacking the media. There is a threat of an attack on media freedoms. Yeah.
So some of these basic rights are used as a scarecrow. You can't talk about us. And I think it's important to have that debate.
Media freedom.
Thanks very much, members of the media. That brings to an end our presser. There's a request, SG, from ENCA, and I would like SABC to do the same as well.